Well, I was in the mood to do a paint test today. So I set up a test and tried to find out how many coats of this cheap Praying tempera paint from the dollar store it would take to get an opaque coat. Stay tuned and see how many coats it does take to get there. All right, so let's take a moment to talk about what we're doing, more specifically what we're doing and why. So I know we did the paint test a while back with the different brands of or types of craft paint from the dollar store to see how opaque they were, and none of them were opaque. I got to thinking the other night, in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, how many coats would it take of those paints to make an opaque coverage on a project? So I decided to test it. Now I wanted to do the acrylic version. I already had the white because I bought the white for all of the tests before. I wanted to use the acrylic, but my dollar store was out of black in the acrylic, but they had black in this tempera paint. So, and it was about the same opacity as the acrylic, maybe a little more opaque. So we're going to do that. I will link up in the top corner the paint test where we tested the paints overall to see what they looked like. So in case you missed that and you want to see it. So let's talk about what we're doing. I have painted half this sheet of watercolor paper in black and I've left half of it white. I like to use a black-white contrast for doing things like this simply because it makes it easier to see what's going on. I'll start this on camera. I'll come back a couple of times during the day and show you how it's going, but I am going to first coat from most of this side with one coat of white, most of this side with one coat of black. Then I'm going to come back when that's dry and I'm going to start down a ways and add a second coat all the way to the bottom. And I'm going to continue that until I either run out of paper or I get an opaque coverage of white over black or black over white. To make this easier, now I'm using brushes that are as similar as I could find in my brush collection. I don't have a lot of big brushes that are alike. So these were the closest. And I have moved some of this white into this little container. So I've got a container with a lid and I've moved some of the black into this one. That way I can keep the same paint out. I won't have to dispense it every time and waste a lot of paint, but I can just keep working from the same by having a lid on it. They won't dry out at all. So I'm going to start, and then between tests, I'm going to wrap the brushes in wet wipes so that I'm not washing the brush and introducing more water into the brush as I go. So actually, let's start with the black over there because then I won't have to work across the fresh paint. And let's use the darker colored brush. So I'm going to not, I'm just trying to go down. I'm trying not to do two double coats, but I know I am brushing over the same place a little bit simply because I need to, I'm trying to cover the whole thing. I will leave a gap between the two sides. All right, now I'll wrap this brush up. So there's what one coat looks like, and that's probably about how we would put a coat of paint on. Let's get a coat of white on, then I'll wrap my brushes. This will probably go on easier because it's already got the black paint on it. In retrospect, maybe I should have put white paint over there, but I didn't think of that. It says that I'm almost out of white paint. All right. And we're going to do another paint test with Dollar Tree paints, playing with the opacity a little bit later on. I'm not sure if that'll be next week or a couple of weeks from now. All right. So that's a fairly even first coat. I'll let that dry. I'll come back and do 2 or 3 coats, and then I'll come back, catch you up, and show you where we're at, and show you how the next coat from there goes. So I'll be back in a bit. All right. Okay, here's where we are now. The black is covering better than the white for sure. I'm going to, and I would probably be happy with the black. We are 4 coats are already on. I'm going to start coat number 5. And the black, it looks really good, but I'm going to see if it looks even better once I get coat number 5 on. So, I mean, this, would I ever want to do 5 coats of paint on a project? Probably not. But I guess in a pinch, if it was the only paint I had available, it might work. And this just satisfied my curiosity. So 5 is definitely the last coat for the black. And my brushes, you'll notice, are still just fine. They've been all day. And I do have fingerprints here because I checked the white is also not drying very well today. We are still really humid here in the Midwest, and it is, paint is taking forever. Gosh, it's not wanting to dry. Okay, I'm just going to go this direction. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap up my paintbrush for the white again. And see what this looks like when it dries. But definitely I'm done with the black. So when this dries, I'll come back, we'll look at it, and we'll see what it looks like with maybe another coat. Today is answering my curiosity. How much paint does it take to cover with this stuff? So I'll see you when this coat dries. All right, so I got this finished as much as I could. And I want to reiterate that I really wanted to do this test with the acrylic paint, but they didn't have the black. So I did it with the Prang Tempera. And I'm fascinated by what happened here. So the first coat, which we saw when we tested the opacity, the first time I tested these paints, was nothing. It took 6 coats to get to almost opaque with the white. And I think maybe another coat, maybe a 7th coat, and it would have been good, which is a lot of coats of paint to use. But it's doable, so there's that. The black, really by the 4th coat, it was pretty good. The 5th was actually a decent coat on the black. The black is more opaque than the white, in my opinion. Now I also, since I really wanted to test this, I tested the white. I didn't have the black to use, and I just did this on black cardstock rather than the watercolor paper. But let's see, the first coat was nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 5 coats again, and it's fairly opaque. I want to get the black because I have an idea for where this translucent paint might really be usable for consistent results. So I'm hoping they get the black in soon and I can do that test. But for today, I'm happy I tested this. It's going to go in with my other paint test cards. So I've got this to look back at to reference later. But there are times when we don't want a full coverage, and these paints, these cheap paints, would work for that, and that's probably what I'll use them for. Also, I think they might work well as a primer coat. But anyway, that's today's paint test. Be sure and check the blog post for any of my thoughts, photos, other information. Thank you very much for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like. What kinds of things would you like to see me test in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.